So by the end of this talk, you will know the difference between a good strategy and a bad strategy. You'll have confidence around the word, know what it is and what it is not. And so really this talk is about words. I had a scan of the internet to see if I could find the funniest way that strategy has been used. And obviously this is tongue in cheek. You can add strategy to any strategic sentence to give it any strategic meaning you strategically want to have. It almost makes sense that the word's been so overused. I've had CTOs ask me if they could be more strategic. I've been asked for a data strategy, been given a strategic plan containing hundreds and hundreds of slides. So we're going to tackle all of the misconceptions about strategy and how that word appears a little bit too much. Demystify it, build confidence, reduce understanding. We're going to do that really with no diagrams, no templates to fill out. No fluff, no process diagrams, no techniques. We're just going to talk about the myths that I found in strategy, with examples from my life and from my work, and some potential solutions. So first one, strategy is hard to understand. This one's for you if you've ever got a 100-page document, yeah, this one's for you. So I play a lot of chess, and I play a lot of speed chess, what we call bullet chess. In bullet chess is a variant of chess where you have to complete all of the moves within a minute. Speed chess relies heavily on all the knowledge you have. So you have very little computation time. You just don't have the time. So my strategy is to play unexpected, aggressive moves which overwhelm the computation time of my opponent, so I can play with time on my side. My strategy is to play unexpected, aggressive moves which overwhelm the computation of my opponent, so I can play with time on my side. That strategy is easy to understand, hopefully, even if you don't play chess. This is the only military example in the talk I promised, but this one's from the Battle of Trafalgar. So at the time, naval tactics were to have two rows of boats, and they come up alongside each other and fire at each other from their guns that are on the side of the ships, and the superior ships beat out the less superior ships. Signaling is easier if all the ships are in a line. It's easier to break away and retreat if you're in a line. Both of the enemies go in the same direction, so you have no advantage or disadvantage because of the wind direction, and you're much less likely to hit a friendly boat. But in the Battle of Trafalgar, Nelson launched his ships in two columns head on. He rationalized that breaking the cohesion of the enemy lines would overwhelm the less experienced ships, and in a swelling sea they could turn and use their superior guns. But this has a problem. During the fast sail towards, the lead ships are prone to full attack. So the strategy was to risk the lead ships in order to create more opportunity to destroy the enemy once their cohesion was broken. Strategy is hard to come up with, yes, but it should always be easy to understand and communicate. It isn't buried in charts and big documents. It's easy. And next myth. Strategy should be ambitious. We've had a bit of this today. We've certainly had, I'm sure some of you have heard some of the statements like this. Our strategy is to be the best marketplace of travel, or our strategy, I made this one up, but our strategy is to be the number one whatever. The misconception here is that strategy is not about lofty goals or admissions. If you imagine my chess strategy, if you said, what's your strategy, Lee-Jon? And I said, my strategy is to win the game. It doesn't sound right. I sound underprepared, both in my own practice and knowledge of my opponent. Aspiration is a great motivator, but strategy is about how you overcome challenges to be more competitive. It's about how you win. So let's debunk this one. If you're in an organization that's got departments in conflict, people are doing things against each other, but the goals and missions are obvious, this is probably why. Alignment is easy when your strategy is realistic and your strategy is easy to understand. So that's two. Here's the third. This misconception that CTOs have their own strategy, or you can put any department in here really, tackles the issue of what to do when your CEO comes in and asks you for next year's strategy. I'll use my example again. Tacking a word before the word strategy misses the point of strategy. In chess, I don't have a strategy for my queens or my pawns. In war, you don't have a strategy for infantry and then one for tanks, or a strategy for hills and a strategy for rivers, or a strategy for the sails of a boat and a strategy for the guns of a boat. A good strategy contains the overall objective. It is realistic and it is easy. Pieces of the organizational puzzle working together cohesively to smash a challenge. I know this is probably the most contentious one in these slides, but a good strategy is cohesive. I don't believe there's such a thing as a technology strategy or a marketing strategy or a big data strategy, or any other word you tack before it. So strategy works at the level of the business, not the level of department. And certainly, you definitely see this around budgeting cycles, which comes on to my next myth, that strategy is planning. And this one's huge. I think if you Google strategy or marketing strategy, you find a lot like this. They contain a lot of graphs, they contain a lot of numbers, they contain like often budget information, capability information, and they have a lot of explanation text to them. In fact, I had a look at Wikipedia to say what Wikipedia says, and it says a strategy is a long-term plan of action designed to achieve a particular goal. I know I can edit Wikipedia, I didn't, but let that sink in, because it sounds sensical. It sounds like something you would hear in business. But what would the opposite be? What is a long-term plan of action that won't achieve a particular goal? The word strategy in Wikipedia is talking about planning. It's just a plan, but strategy isn't planning. There's a well-known joke where a tourist asks a local for the directions to Dublin, and the local says, "Well, sir, I wouldn't start from here. We cannot form an effective action if we don't have a good understanding of where we are and how we got there." It's not the action of planning. Strategy is about making a set of integrated choices that address what is our aspiration, where we will play, and how we will achieve that. To continually answer these questions, we have to look at our past, and we have to look at the environment outside the company, and we have to look at our future. So you cannot plan without knowing where you're starting from. And we have a load of good talks today, core domains, Simon's talk on mapping, about really understanding and diagnosing who you are as a business. So strategy isn't planning. If somebody asks you for a something strategy, they probably mean a something plan. But in strategy, we diagnose where we are for knowing where we're going. A plan, I guess, may emerge from strategy, maybe one of the outputs. But strategy is about how we came to that plan. So that's 4 debunked. Strategy must be easy, it must be realistic. It must at least have some sense of achievement to it. It must be cohesive to the business, and we must diagnose the business to know exactly where we are. So here's the next myth. Strategy is about deciding the right things to do. I once got asked to do some consulting for a firm outside of London, and they'd failed to deliver on 29 of 31 strategic projects, not just regular projects, in their year's strategy. I asked how big their team was, and they said 15 people in engineering. So I mentioned what I thought the problem was, and considering they only managed to do 2 projects last year, maybe their cadence this year should be 2. I didn't get any further work, probably for the best, who knows? But we all have an innate unwillingness to choose. Good strategy is about creating an approach to how we make a decision, and it's about understanding the consequences of the choices we make. Good strategy is about acknowledging why we say no to things. I think fundamentally, like when a strategy works, you don't hear about all of the choices that were painfully discarded. Good strategy and changes to strategy are difficult, and they're emotional. They will involve cancelling projects or favorite initiatives or pet research in favor of ones that we believe position the company more effectively. So it's not just about deciding what to do. Strategy presents why we don't do something by understanding the current challenges of the business. It isn't a list of actions, which you commonly see, but it is a policy we use to create those actions. It can say why we said no to certain things. And often you don't see these things in talks and in blog posts and often in the documents that say they're strategy documents. So that's my penultimate myth. This is my favorite. You must fill out templates to do strategy. So in this final one, we'll apply our knowledge and debunk the bulk of all blog posts you can see on strategy, which is sort of filling out of templates, filling out of charts, filling out of 2x2s. A large percentage of strategy probably looks something a bit like this. It doesn't talk to the challenges. It doesn't talk about the difficulty of distilling hard concepts into simple things that you can get across to a company. And companies that fill these out, they often ignore the analytics and the coordinated action required to define a strategy. They start with a mission, write a vision, And then they write their strategies, then they write all of their actions. And certainly early on in my career, I was brought up on this type of template. And to look at the sort of thing that this creates and to really, really illustrate my point, I've picked on the University College London. And if anyone's here from UCL, I'm really, really sorry. This is UCL's 10-year strategy that's publicly available. Sorry, 20-year strategy that's publicly available right now. I don't know if anyone's ever written a 20-year plan. I can barely keep a 6-month plan together. So their vision, I'll read it because I know it's small. It's just been screenshotted. It says, our distinctive approach to research, education, and innovation will further inspire our community of staff, students, and partners to transform how the world is understood, how knowledge is created and shared, and the way that global problems are solved. And their mission is to be London's global university, an diverse intellectual community engaged with the wider world, committed to changing it for the better, recognized for our radical and critical thinking and widespread influence, with an outstanding ability to integrate our education, research, innovation, and enterprise for the long-term benefit of humanity. If you think their mission and vision sounds like waffle, you're probably right. And you can distill it down to one phrase, which is just to be a university. They then go into fill in strategic themes like academic leadership, integration of research and education, and so on. And then it continues further, like they write down their key enablers. None of these strategies help UCL compete globally and talk to a problem they're solving. And I appreciate that they're putting this public rather than an internal document, but none talk to the challenges they're overcoming. And in the key enablers, I saw one, excellent systems. And I thought, well, we're technologists, maybe we'll pick on that. And we've just had a talk about good objectives. Here are their objectives. Have processes that are focused on the needs of the user of the service, as opposed to making bacon sandwiches randomly, I guess. Ensure effective linkages between our core strengths and systems development so that systems support the changing needs of UCL. Be an acknowledged leading university in system development deployment. Continue to invest appropriately and strategically in IT. I won't carry on, and I don't mean to pick on UCL. All of these things just say we just need to do our jobs, which is, of course, not strategy. Strategy is about deciding how you are unique. A company can outperform its rivals only if it can establish a difference that it can preserve. Everything here is boilerplate stuff we could have found in a job ad. There's a bit of fun. I went one level deeper. And this is their implementation plan, which shows the problem of having to fill out templates when you don't really want to. The first line of their implementation plan is to develop and implement a digital master plan. So templates are easy to fill out, but they're often overused. They're hard to buy into, and they're often crammed with business fluff. Diagnosing the challenges in any business or a public sector university are hard. And understanding the challenges in your market are hard, but we can't skip the hard work. There is no shortcut to doing this well. And it's not just missions and visions. SWOT analyses I've seen where people just they write a SWOT analysis. I'm sure you've seen those 2x2s. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunity, strengths. People just fill them in, pat themselves on the back and move on. SWOT analysis are the output of an analysis, not the starting point. It's not good strategy. It's just busy work. So you don't have to fill out any templates. You can ignore them. You do have to do the analysis required to answer the following questions. How can we build a unique position in the market? What will we do and what will we not do? And how do all of our actions fit together and reinforce each other? So easy to communicate, realistic to achieve, cohesive across all functions, and requires a deep diagnosis of where you are using some of the techniques you heard in earlier talks today, perhaps. So diagnose, figure out what's going on, throw out everything except what's critical. Find patterns, evaluate alternatives. And I presented this in this sort of challenges of, misconceptions of strategy, just because we're technologists, we're problem solvers. So you now know the problems in strategy. You now know you can throw out the templates. You now know you need to find something that works across the whole organization. And you now know that a large slide deck isn't going to do it. So this conference's day is called Strategy and Alignment. But when I was thinking about how to close this out, I realized that good strategy is alignment. You don't write a strategy and then align it to the business. If it's easy to understand, you will have alignment. So I hope that's given you some food for thought. And thank you all for your attention today. If you want to chat strategy to me, I'm available on the above channels. My LinkedIn's on the CTO Craft website, I think. And that's me for day three. Thank you for all of it.